Okay, so let's get right into it. What if one of the most powerful tools for managing something as complex as obsessive-compulsive disorder wasn't just in a therapist's office, but also right there in your kitchen? Today, we're going to explore this really fascinating connection between our diet and OCD. We'll look at the science, the key nutrients, and what it all could actually mean for you.
Just take a second with that thought. The idea that the food we eat could actually help quiet the constant noise of OCD? That's pretty incredible, isn't it? It opens up this whole new avenue for how we can support our own minds, working right alongside the treatments we already know are effective.
So how is that even possible? I mean, food and intrusive thoughts? To really get it, we first have to zoom in on this kind of surprising connection, this constant two-way conversation that's happening between your brain and your gut. And let me tell you, this is a total game changer for how we think about mental health.
So first, just a quick refresher on what OCD is. We know it involves those really persistent, intrusive thoughts, the obsessions, and then the repetitive behaviors or compulsions that people use to try and get some relief from that anxiety. But behind all that, what's really going on is a story about brain chemistry. And two of the main characters in that story are serotonin, which you've probably heard of as a mood regulator, and glutamate, which basically acts like an accelerator for your brain signals. And this is where the story gets really interesting. For the longest time, we kind of thought of the brain as this, an isolated command center, totally separate from the rest of the body. But now we know that's just not true. It's actually connected to our gut by this super busy two-way information highway. We call it the brain-gut axis, and it is completely flipping our old understanding of mental wellness on its head.
And if you need just one single fact to understand why this gut connection matters so much, here it is. A whopping 90%, 90, of your body's serotonin is made in your gut. Not your brain, your gut. Think about that for a second. The main factory for our feel-good chemical is literally in our digestive system. So of course our gut health can directly influence our brain chemistry and our mental state. It just makes sense.
Okay, so if our gut is the factory that's building these super important brain chemicals, then it obviously needs the right raw materials to do its job. And that is exactly where nutrition comes in. The research is starting to point to a specific team of nutrients that seem to be the MVPs for brain health. So let's meet the key players.
Now, I know this looks like a long list, but don't get overwhelmed. The easiest way to think about it is like a toolkit for your brain. You've got your healthy fats, essential minerals, key vitamins, and even some specific compounds like NAC. We're not going to drill down on every single one, but just know that each of them has a really unique and important job to do.
So how do these things actually work? Well, a really simple way to think about it is to split them into two teams. First, you've got the regulators, like your omega-3s and NAC. Their job is to manage the brain's signals, to help keep those neurotransmitters, like serotonin and glutamate, in balance. Then you have the builders, things like zinc, iron, and B vitamins. They're the actual raw materials your body uses to make the neurotransmitters in the first place. See? You really can't have one without the other. Both are crucial.
But, what's the actual scientific evidence for all this? If we take a quick look at the research, a really interesting picture starts to form. You'll notice the evidence levels are different, right? For something like zinc, we actually have clinical trials showing that when you add it to an SSRI medication, patients can have a better response. That's pretty cool. For omega-3s, we see links to less anxiety. And yeah, for things like the ketogenic diet, the evidence is more anecdotal right now, but the personal stories are really compelling. The big takeaway here isn't that any one of these is a magic bullet. It's that a pattern of promising findings is starting to build up.
Okay, so the science is great, but what does this actually look like on your plate, right? How do we take all these ideas from the lab and bring them into our kitchens? The good news is, it's not about being perfect or starting some crazy restrictive new diet. It's really about building a foundation of small, smart choices. This is a really simple but powerful strategy. See how it starts with that foundation? Just eating whole, unprocessed foods? From there, it's about making sure you get those key nutrients, like omega-3s, and balancing your meals so you can avoid that blood sugar roller coaster that can wreak havoc on your mood. And I want to point out a really important tool here, Step 5, journaling. Just tracking what you eat and how you feel can help you figure out your own personal triggers. because believe me, everybody is different.
So what does a balanced meal even mean? This little chart gives us a perfect visual. When you combine lean protein, healthy fats, and those complex carbs from fruits and veggies, you avoid that awful blood sugar spike and crash. Come on, we've all felt it, right? That wave of exhaustion and irritability that hits you an hour after a super sugary meal. Keeping your energy levels stable is just a cornerstone of supporting your mental state all day long.
Now, you might also be hearing about more specialized approaches, things like ketogenic or low-gluten diets, and there are some really incredible stories out there from people who have found relief. But, and this is a big but, it's really important to remember that this is still the frontier of the research. The effects are highly, highly individual, and these are definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution.
Okay, all of this information is really hopeful, and it's exciting stuff. But before we go any further, we have to talk about the most important part of this whole conversation, the big picture, and all the safety guardrails that go with it.
Which brings us to the single most important question we could possibly ask in this entire explainer. Can making changes to your diet replace established treatments like therapy or medication?
The answer is a clear, absolute no. Diet is a supportive tool. It is not a cure. Think of it like a powerful ally that works alongside, never, ever in place of, the proven evidence-based treatments like cognitive behavioral therapy and medication. It's one piece of a comprehensive mental health plan, not the whole plan itself.
So before you run out and make any big changes, here is your safety checklist. First, please remember that your body, your biology is totally unique. What works for someone else might not work for you. Second, be aware that supplements can and do interact with medications, which is why the third and most important step is to always talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian first. Seriously. They are your partners in this, and they can help you do it safely. They can even help you test for common deficiencies.
And really, this is what it all comes down to. This isn't about finding a magic cure. It's about empowerment. It's about feeding your brain the right fuel so you can give yourself one more tool in your toolkit to support all the other hard work you're already doing for your mental health. So, I'll just leave you with this question to think about. This is not about overhauling your entire life tomorrow, but looking at everything we've just talked about, what's maybe one small, tiny change you could make to your plate today, just to give your brain a little more of what it needs? Thanks for tuning in.